Hi everybody, and welcome to my video related to Microsoft Component Object Model called COM. This video is called Dancing with COM, where I will be covering functionality of COM, tools which are very good for viewing COM objects, classes, interfaces, type libraries, and other stuffs. I will also show you reversing COM instances in IDA and how you can deal with methods which are exposed via the COM instances. And also we'll be using some COM client. So content of this video, as I already tell you, what is the Microsoft Component Object Model, functionality of COM, COM in Registry, basically how you can view the classes and interfaces and type libraries in the registry, where they are defined, something like settings for COM, and how you can basically view these stuffs quite in a simple way using some tools as a COM viewers. And COM client server, basically we'll be using PowerShell and .NET notation as a simple COM client, and we'll be doing reversing COM instances and methods in IDA, applying structures, types, and using ComIDA Plugin. And in the last minute of this video, I will show you some interesting way of using COM method in LokiBot malware sample. So all of this information and links are below my video in the description, so don't forget to check it. And they are useful links. Some of them I will be covering in this video. ComIDA plugin, link to ComIDA plugin, and tools to view COM objects, interfaces, type libraries, and also Unpacked LokiBot sample, which I will be using in the last minute of this video. Okay, so let's jump to the start. First of all, the best documentation about COM is Microsoft, and there is also another very useful link, and it's a blog post from FireEye company called Hunting COM Objects. I highly recommend reading these two links because from FireEye there are many useful information in this blog post. And here we can jump to Microsoft documentation. Okay, I don't want to read it all because there are plenty of information. I highly recommend it to read it all to fully understand what is COM and what does it mean, how you can use it, and other stuffs. But I want to highlight some information from this because they are very, very important to understand what COM is, and I will be using this information later. So first of all, introduction to COM. Basically, what is COM? The Microsoft Component Object Model COM defines a binary interoperability standard for creating reusable software libraries that interact at runtime. You can use COM libraries without the requirement of compiling them into your application, blah blah blah. Basically, what does it mean? COM is something like client-server communication, where you can basically use methods from the server, and you don't have to compile the libraries into your application. Other useful information about objects and interfaces. COM object exposes its features through an interface, which is a collection of member functions. A COM interface defines the expected behavior and responsibility of component, and it specifies a strongly typed contract that provides blah blah blah. Basically, what does it mean? That COM is an object and it's defined by its class, and this class has many interfaces, and basically if you want to call some method of this object, it's defined and exposed via its interface. I will explain it more later. Interface implementation. You cannot create an instance of COM interface by itself. Even if you want to use a method of some interface, you can't basically create instance of interface. You must, here it is, instead you create an instance of class that implements the interface. In C++, the COM interface is modeled blah 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 blah. So basically, what does it mean? You can use any programming language that supports the concept of function pointers to implement COM interface. What does it mean? If you want to use some method from interface, you have to create instance to class which defines basically the object of COM. Yeah, so basically you have to create instance of COM class where you have to specify the interface you want to communicate to, because you know that this interface has the method you want to invoke or call. So after that you create this instance of class and interface. You can call the method which is in the interface, and that's all. And here are some other information. Basically, you can see here about interfaces that interfaces are strongly typed. Every interface has its own unique interface identifier named an IID, which eliminates collision that could occur with human readable names. The IID is global unique identifier. So basically GUID, global unique identifier. So interface is represented with global unique identifier, which is called IID. And for the class, which represents the COM object, class is represented or is identified by class ID. And surprise, surprise, class ID is again global unique identifier. And I think that's all. That's all from this documentation. Okay, so I can jump now to show you more things. This was quite a very informative things from Microsoft documentation, but for you I create something what I call a graphical masterpiece, especially for you. Basically this picture covers all I now told you. I will explain it, and I hope that this is basically the simplest explanation of COM and how does it work. So in this picture you can see the COM object. Yeah, the COM object is here the car, and COM client, yeah, COM object is also the COM server. COM client is your program here, and you can see here is some person, and this person basically wants one thing, only drive a car. And if the person wants to drive a car, it must call method which is called drive. So it basically wants to invoke method drive. I want to drive. And if this person wants to call method drive, it basically must create instance of object car and interface, for example, like door1, where method, because door1 are only door1 interface has the method drive. So if you wanna drive the car, you basically must must create instance of car object and interface door1 where the method drive is defined. So you create instance of this object and interface, and after you create this instance you have this object instance, and finally you can call the method drive, like car door1 drive. Okay, so you can see that this this COM object is represented with the class ID. Yeah, it's represented with the class, and class ID is global unique identifier. Nice. This class, which represents the COM object, has many interfaces. You can see door1, door2, door3, door4. If you wanna use, for example, you know that you want to use method relax, you must specify not only car class ID, but you must specify also the interface identifier. Here it is called RIID, because you will see it later in IDA. It's called reference interface identifier, which is also a global unique identifier. And you know that if you want to use method relax, you must basically specify it during the object instance creation, that you have to specify the class ID and also the interface ID. in this case, you can see that you want to drive. So basically you are calling CreateInstance, which is a Windows API. And when you are calling CreateInstance, you have to specify class ID, which is representing this object, and also the interface where do you want to communicate to. And here in the second point, you already have created the object instance of this interface and this class ID object. And now you can finally, in point 3, call the method drive car door1 method drive, and you can drive. And basically that's all. That's the point of COM. This is the COM server and this is the COM client. COM client is your program. And what is the main idea about COM is that basically you can use COM in whatever language. You can implement you can use COM in C, C++, Java, .NET, PowerShell using .NET, and because PowerShell is built on .NET and other stuff. So basically it's a really nice feature. Nice feature. Basically it's a whole Windows interface, but okay. So this was quite a simple explanation. I hope that it was nicely understandable. Let's close it. And I want to, as I already told you something about classes, basically COM that are represented with classes. Classes are classes defines one or many interfaces and other stuffs. Where are these things set? Yep, where are all these settings related to COM objects? It's in Registry. So you can see it like regedit, and you can see it in HKey. Wow. You can see it in HKey classes root. But basically, HKey classes root is something like a copy of HKey local machine software, and here are classes. Yeah, but we can use the HKey class root. It doesn't matter. So if you want, for example, see very most of you guys probably already saw something like WScript.Shell and method run. So surprise WScript.Shell is a COM class, and this COM class has some interface, and this interface has defined function run. So you can see something like this, for example, from VBA, Visual Basic for Application in Microsoft Documents, using some macro malware stuffs and other things. So where you can find WScript.Shell method, WScript.Shell class. Let's scroll a little down, and we can see basically I want to show you now how you can find it manually, where it is really set, where it is defined and all the settings. But later I will show you how you can do this finding and searching in a very faster way using some nice tools. So basically now you want to see now you want to find WScript.Shell, WScript.Shell. You can see WScript.Shell and WScript.Shell.1, but if you check the class ID, which represent this class and this COM object, you can see it's the same. So here you can see only information about class ID. Just copy this, and now you have to find interfaces which are defined in this class. How you can do that? Basically, you have to find type libraries for this class ID. You can find type libraries if you try to find class ID HKey register, class ID here, and now go to edit and find, copy here this one and find next. And there will be many information for the specified class ID, and here it is. And you can see here is in-prog server, which is basically DLL, which is responsible for it contains the code, the methods, code for methods, code for interfaces, and many other stuffs. Basically, this is the COM server. Yeah, so this is the WSHOMOCX is basically COM based DLL. It's only DLL, MZ header, and other stuffs. So you can see here also the type library, and type library has this one, global unique identifier. You can see also here something like here ProgID. ProgID is a programmatic identifier, which is basically um, uh, readable, human, very I don't know how to say it, very nice to view string, yeah, which is called ProgID. But basically something about like 20% of ComObject has defined ProgID. I will show you how it is important later. So type library, just copy this value and try to find HKey type libraries. Okay, it should be somewhere lower. Scroll down here, T, and there should be something type TypeLib, and that's all. F3, no, edit and find, paste the value and find. And you will find basically the location where is the type library, and you can see here for 32-bit processes and 64-bit processes, and you can see that basically is the same location as in proc server 32. So basically this DLL, which is COM-based DLL OCX, should also contains the type library information inside it somewhere. Okay, so basically we can just copy this location, and this type libraries has information about interfaces. This library is exposing, and also about types and methods and other stuffs. So basically we can shut down this registry editor and try to find the DLL, which is responsible for that it must contain the type library, and also it's in proc server 32. So just copy that, and here it is. So if I check it in, for example, open in the CFF Explorer, I can see here import directory, nothing special, but export directory, and there are nothing like some methods and other stuffs. So where it is? Surprise, surprise, it's in resources. If you check the resource editor, here you can see the type library, and here you can see the TypeLib. Nice. So basically you can just save it as raw, save resource as raw, and in the same location xxx save, and this is the basically type library. And if you check it somewhere, you can basically rename it IDL, I think. Oh, we can rename it. So basically this is the type library. You can view it with some type library viewer, and I have also built in quite a nice type library viewer. When it see that it's a OCX, it basically thinks that it should have the type library defined in itself. So you can see here is type library viewer, and basically it reads the resource and parse it, and it exposes here you can see, for example, file, and you can see interfaces 1 and other stuffs. So basically this is a type library viewer. I think that the type library viewer It's also available in some Spirit websites, where, for example, very known tool shellcode debugger SCDDBG is downloadable, so you can maybe download it as a standalone tool. Okay, but we don't need this. I wanted to show you that this file basically has defined all the code and methods and inside in the code, and also it has the type library in the resources, where basically many tools can parse the type library and show you how the methods and how the interfaces are defined. Nice. And basically now you saw how very time consuming is to find only one COM object represented with class ID, how you can find the type library, how you can find interfaces. And there is quite an interesting thing that type libraries are optional. Not every class ID or COM object has its own type library. It's not. It's optional. Yeah. So you don't know. You basically, if you want to know some interfaces and methods some COM object is exposing, sometimes you have to reverse the library because there is no TypeLib. And if you don't want to do this manually every time, you can use two very useful tools. One of this tool is called alleview.net, and basically it's a nice, very friendly implementation of alleview, which is from Microsoft, in .NET, and it also has a PowerShell module for viewing COM objects and other stuffs. And other tool which I will be using here, I'm very comfortable with using this tool, is called ComView. So let's run ComView and I will show you its features and how it's really fast to find everything what I show you here. You can see here is a class ID tab. You can see here all class ID defined in your operation system. Type library, you can see all type library. You can see there are not many. The class the COM objects are many more here, type libraries, and you can see also all interfaces which are implemented in COM objects. There are many, so it will take some time. After that, I will show you how you can basically find the WScript.Shell again. Yep, here you can see the interface, but in help with this tool. Basically, you will go to the class ID, and if you remember, there was quite nice ProgID string. So basically, you can do F3 and find the WScript.Shell.1. Find, and it's here. You can see it here. Nice. And here you can see many information which we basically manually carve out from the registry. It was quite a time consuming. You can see type in prog server. So basically you can see here different different types. You can see here in prog server 32 and local server. Basically, local server is a self-standalone executable which has to run in its own process, and in prog server 32 is DLL, which can be basically loaded into your process and other stuff. So you can see here the class ID, you can see here the text that it's a Windows script host shell object, and you can see where it is where the DL is located, and ProgID if it has something, and TypeLib if it has defined the TypeLib. So now you can right click and basically you can jump exactly to the view type library, and basically it's able to parse the type library and expose you this information. Very useful. You can see here the interfaces which are available in interfaces and basically classes which are available in this type library. So you can see that the global unique identifier here 72C24 is this one. So if you double click on it, you can see that it exposes one interface, basically the one with you are communicating to. So double click on it, and now you can see the methods which are available in this interface. So if you basically create instance of this interface, of this class object and this interface, because it has only one interface, but you have to specify it, you can call whatever method here. Yeah, for example, run, very heavily used method, WScript.Shell.1. Okay, so I just show you the tool which basically saved our many minutes what we did before in the registry, and how you can confirm it that it's true what I'm telling you now. And as I tell you also that we will be using some COM client built in Windows. So let's run PowerShell. And we can do two things. Basically, we can use built-in CMDLET to create instance of ComObject, specifying the pro. There is disadvantage that you have to specify the ProgID. Other way is that we will be not using the CMDLET, but we will be using .NET notation. Basically, we'll be using .NET. That's very nice feature of PowerShell, because PowerShell is built on .NET, so you can call .NET directly. So we can use .NET notation to basically call whatever object or to create instance of whatever object, specifying only the class ID. So first method is when we have to specify the ProgID is New-Object. Yeah, you can see, for example, get help new object and full, or we can use show window and check it here, and ComObject, and check. Here is the parameter ComObject, and it's a type of string, and you have to specify the programmatic identifier ProgID of the ComObject. Okay, but there is quite a big disadvantage, because if you sort it, you can see that like only 20% of all COM objects I have on my operation system are exposing or are implementing the ProgID. Okay, so in this case I can use the ProgID, because WScript.Shell.1 has it's a ProgID, and I can use that. But in case the class object or the COM object is not implementing the ProgID, you can still use class ID. I will show you later how you can do it. So first of all, again, I will try to find WScript file, WScript.Shell.1, sorry. And here right click and copy a global unique identifier here, and now new, we can do basically something like object instance equal, and here should be new object com, and here should be no, we don't want to, sorry for that. I have to specify the ProgID, so we can do it quite easily. Just go to edit, and here you can see also all stuffs carved out from registry. Very nice feature of ComView. But here you can see the ProgID. Just copy that and go back to PowerShell, WScript.Shell.1, and enter. And now you have basically instance of object WScript.Shell.1. You can see the get member, so we can see the type and names. So first of all, you can see that type name is system ComObject. And what is this? What is this? Basically, it's an interface, because as I already told you, PowerShell internally will create ComObject instance, and it specifies its interface. Here it's only one interface, so here it is. If you check that I'm not lying, you can basically find the WScript.Shell.1. Here it is. Go to type libraries, click on it, and check the interface it's exposing. 419.04400, and check it here, 419.04400. It's the interface, and the interface is exposing these methods. Am I right? You can check on it, check the interface, and check the method. Yep, run environment special folders, and you can see run environment special folders and other stuff. So some methods, some properties, and if you want to invoke the method, it's very easy. In PowerShell, basically run, and you can see here it's quite a you can quite be misunderstanding the arguments because there's string variant, but here it has quite a nice feature that it tells you that this one argument, the command which you want to run, is not optional. It must be defined, but the other two arguments are optional. So basically we only want to specify the program we want to run, or the command. So we want to run calc.exe. Yep. Oh, sorry, something was wrong. Yep. We have to do this thing. We have to implement this string command. And here is the calculator. Nice. So basically we are here the COM client. The PowerShell here is the COM client, and we invoke the COM server. So what we can do now is basically what I already told you. Yeah, what happened if you have if you don't have the ProgID here, ProgID, and you want to use the PowerShell. So basically you must only copy the global unique identifier and don't use the ProgID. Now go to PowerShell, and this is something I called quite a magic. So dotation, activator, system activator, and method will be CreateInstance, and the CreateInstance needs basically argument type of type. So we need to use type and method GetTypeFromCLSID. Here it will be defined the class ID, one bracelet closed and second bracelet closed, and that's basically all. Now you can again save it to some variable like object instance, and system activator, create instance type, get class, the type from class ID. Copy it, just only delete the bracelet, and that's all. And now if you check it again, get member, you can see the same interface and method. So again, run, and yep, and that's it. Basically I just show you two methods how you can use the PowerShell or .NET built-in client, COM client, to invoke some method or some COM object interface and other stuff. How you can do it with the defining the ProgID, and how you can do it with the class ID, which is more universal. Okay, so leave it for now. I will come back to this later because we will be using this to confirm something from IDA during the reversing. Nice. So for now, I think that we covered what is Microsoft component, object model, functionality of COM in registry, COM viewers, and COM client, PowerShell.NET COM client, yep, and reversing COM instances and methods in IDA. So okay, let's jump to IDA. I have prepared LokiBot. It's already unpacked, it's repaired, and basically we can jump exactly to IDA. Let's jump to IDA. And basically this is written in C. So in C, here you can see that it's invoking there is quite one advantage that LokiBot has defined a CreateInstance in its imports. So basically it's a part of the executable in imports data directory. So you can see CreateInstance is basically for creating of instance of ComObject, where you have to specify the class ID and the interface ID. And after that you will call some method. So for example, check the IDA. Here you can see the CreateInstance in this assembly view. For the simplicity, I will show you in pseudocode here. And check it here, CreateInstance, and basically what you can see here is if you don't apply proper types or structures and other things, only one you can see here that it's initializing ComObject based on class ID and reference interface identifier, which is basically interface identifier. And after it initiated, you can see that it's calling some method from the interface, but you can't see what method. You can't see what it's doing. Yep. So you have to apply the proper structure or types. I want to show you different kind of methods. So for now, what I want to show you, let's check the class ID. Class ID, you can see it here. Just copy the class ID, copy, and jump to com. Copy only the few first bytes, and copy here, or jump here to com view and press F3 and try to find this class ID. Okay, it's because I'm not on the top. Here F3 and find this one. Find. We can, and it's here, shell automation service. So basically it's creating object instance of shell automation service. And what interface? We can see, we can basically jump to the view type library, and here are the interfaces and also the class global unique identifiers. Let's check the interface, and we can see that it's a D8F015CO. Copy that, and you can see it here. If you sort it, D8F015CO, I shall dispatch. I shall dispatch is basically the interface. So if you don't want to look for this kind of the like I did, you can basically jump to the interface immediately, and you can try to F3 and try to look DOFO15CO, which is basically global unique identifier, and you can see I shall dispatch here. Nice. So let's now I want to show you, you can jump to the type library. Again, you can also see, if you check the registry, that the type library is defined in shell32DLL. 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 And as I already told you, shell32DLL should have it in the resources. Let's confirm. 32DLL. Okay, shell 32 DLL, and let's specify also the system32 directory, and you can see it here. Let's open it with CFF Explorer and check it. Again, jump to resources, and you can see here is the type library. So basically the shell32 has COM object expose again, and it's defined the type library in its resources. Nice. So you can see that in the IDA, it's calling or initiating the instance of COM object via the Windows API call CreateInstance. Basically, what I have to do is to check the documentation about this Windows API. Check it here. Call CreateInstance. Creates and default initialize the single object of the class associated with the specified class ID. Basically, you can call more Windows API to create a COM object instance. For example, call CreateInstance. Basically, this is a very simple Windows API if you wanna create COM object only on your local computer, because you can create or initialize COM object on a remote computer, and for this purpose, you can call CreateInstance X. But surprise, surprise, if you open link in a new tab, here is only one thing in addition, server info. But the server info is the remote computer, and it could be null, and if it's null, it's basically the same as the call CreateInstance, because it will initiate a COM object on your local computer. So I can jump back, and you can see that our method is CLSID, and again you can basically use it in the same way as the CreateInstance. But here is the definition for the CreateInstance, and you can see here is the class ID, which is representing the object class ID. Here is the RIID, reference interface identifier, and you can see that it's basically global unique identifier representing the interface of the COM object. And here is the PPV, which is the address of pointer variable that received the interface pointer requested in RIID. Basically, it's a pointer to type of the interface. Okay, so how you can benefit from this information in IDA, I will show you. As you can see, this interface is I shall dispatch. So let's go to edit and copy this. I shall dispatch only this. And basically you can see here it should be I shall dispatch, and also check this value. Let's synchronize it with pseudocode A, and check this value. It's a offset of 36 in decimal. So basically I shall dispatch, there is quite a nice feature that if you see the I shall dispatch, view type library, and you can see I shall dispatch, and here are the methods in this interface, and check the offset 36 of decimal, because here is information of virtual offset, virtual function table offset, and check the 36. I think it was 36. Yep, 36, and it should be a method name namespace. Nice, because what happen if you create a COM object on some interface? Basically, something like in this variable PPV is returned the basically a representation on the interface, something like virtual table of function, and it depends on the offset you call. Basically, you are calling the method from this interface, and the COM view has very nice feature that it writes you here the offsets and defined methods, so it should be the namespace. And also the interface is a type of I shall dispatch. Nice. So basically you can fine, go here, and this should return something. This should be a type of pointer to I shall dispatch. Okay, so go here, press a Y or right click and set a type, and just apply here this one, I shall dispatch and pointer. Nice. Okay, and check what happened. And you can see namespace, that is calling namespace. Nice. But what is quite interesting here, this was one method. Yeah, this was basically one method how you can do it. Basically, you are defining the or retyping the variables immediately in the pseudocode view. But basically, you can do it in the different way. If you revert it, you can go to structure and add structure type, go to add standard structure, and try to find here I shall dispatch. Okay. I shall dispatch, and you can see you can use this one because I shall dispatch has defined I shall dispatch virtual table, and this is here somewhere here. So this one. Okay. And go back to here, and basically you can mark this one and press or you can right click and convert to struct. Find here the I shall dispatch, apply, and the same, absolutely the same. So basically if you just retype the PPV, it will apply the same annotation in the decompile view. So what is here the next one? You can see that here is the namespace and it's returning some value. Yep, you can see returning some value, and this value or this variable is used here. Basically it's calling some method from this something from this object which is returned. So what is returned from the namespace? Just com view viewer, I shall dispatch, and the namespace, and you can see that it's returning the folder, pointer to folder object. Nice, folder is defined here. So if you check the folder, you can see that it has many methods too. Okay, so simple way how you can do it, as again, you already read it on Microsoft documentation, that it's a pointer to the interface, and it's interface specifying the folder. So jump back to IDA, and basically you can just mark V11 and press Y and change it to folder, folder type, and it's a pointer. Nice. Press OK and check what happened. Method copy here. Okay. So basically, what does it means? Basically, you are specifying here a directory for which a folder object will be created, and this folder object is invoking method copy here, which basically has argument. If you check that, folder copy here, and you can see that arguments of copy here is item. So basically you are specifying here as an argument to namespace is a directory, and the directory is used to invoke the method copy here to the directory specified here, and argument for the copy here is some file to copy to directory. And basically you can't see this if you wouldn't apply the structures or proper types in this pseudocode view. Basically what I did here, you can do the same in the disassembly view. Nice. Okay, so basically we are here. What I wanted to show you next one is basically you can use something what is called ComIDA plugin, and I have it here. You can basically find it in this link. It's available below this video in description, and you can see how ComIDA works. An IDA plugin that helps during the analysis of modules using COM. It works by searching the data references to known COM global unique identifier, classes or interfaces, and for X-rays plugin user infers type that use. Okay, you can see it looks quite nicely, but the disadvantage of this, it doesn't work for the X-ray plugin. Sometimes it works and sometimes not. I will show you why. Yeah, because it just works if the CreateInstance is defined in the imports. If there is no import of CreateInstance, it's, for example, dynamically the malware sample is performing dynamically IP resolving, so basically it's not a part of imports, it doesn't work. And sometimes even if the CreateInstance is part of imports, it doesn't work. But for what is very useful, this plugin, that it's still very useful when it's able to find the global unique identifiers, like for classes and interfaces in whole code. So for example, if you just go edit and plugin and ComIDA, ComIDA somewhere here, run it and check that it finds the class ID and interface identifier, both GUIDs. I shall dispatch and show automation service. Nicely, you can see it here that it finds it here. Yep, class, it's here, and interface here. Nicely. But you can see that it was not able to find the second one here because it's referencing the return object and invoking the method of the object, so it's quite more difficult. But you can see that if you have your own knowledge, you can basically apply the same what we did before, and you can see what it does, this code. So now it's time. I think that I covered what I wanted, reversing COM instances and methods in IDA, structure types, and ComIDA plugin. And now finally interesting way of using COM method in LokiBot malware sample. Yes, so basically I want to try to do it fastly or in a quick way. You can see here that this CreateInstance is using the namespace. So basically here you can see the argument. The PSZ is used as a value for argument, and PSZ should be somewhere here, and it should be the folder path. Yeah, because it tries to use a folder, create folder object for the folder path. So we can rename it as a folder path. Okay, and what is A1? You can see that A1 is used here for v9 value, and it's used here in this method. So it should be the item or the file which would be copied to this folder. So basically it's a file path, and it's a file path. Okay, file path, basically specifying file path which will be copied to this folder via ComObject method. Nice, and this function we can rename as a copy file to folder, and basically via com. Copy file to folder via com. Okay, and that's it. And now I want to show you the strange thing. That's quite a tricky thing. That if we will be debugging it and check how LokiBot is using this this function. It's in very strange way, and I didn't find any information about this that that this is possible in internet. So hope you will let me know and maybe add some comments if you know that, or if you are familiar with this kind of methods. I will show it now. So we need to basically debug it, and this is basically dumped unpacked sample, so it will probably crash in some location. So we will be jumping via modifying the EIP and other stuff. So I will show you how you can do it. Let's jump to the location from where this is called. It's here, and here you can see from where it is called. Try to find some function. Yep, for example, this function is not processing some arguments, so this should not crash. I will explain later why. And here is some struct strings. You can see the struct string. If you want to change it to some characters, press R to all of this, and it's some like passwords one directory. Interesting, but we can set a breakpoint here. First one breakpoint, and we can also, because this is our very interesting location, and we want to jump here from the entry point, and we basically also have to set breakpoint on the entry point. Now we can go to debugger and process option. Let's specify it, copy this file name, and Inferno desktop, and the IP address save network, and press OK. Basically remote Windows debugger and start. Yes, I'm again using the remote debug server running in the VM. So let's jump back to IDA. Just go to Windows, load desktop, and change the desktop. I will show you, because it's very it's better because I have small display and it's nicer. So basically we are on the entry point, and now we want to jump to the location where I already set the breakpoint. So debugger and breakpoint and breakpoint lists. You can see here is the breakpoint. I want to jump to it, and so copy the location, copy that, jump back and jump to registry and change the EIP. Okay, EIP. Okay, and we are here. Let's like this, and we can continue. F7, 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 and we can continue to debug it. We are on the location where I want it to be, and now we have to find out the way how we can jump to the function which is implementing the COM instance and invoking the method of COM object and other stuffs. So let's continue, and here is the function. So the code B, yep. And you can see that in this function we have to go to this function. Probably some condition will not be true, so we have to modify the flags. So 0 flags in this case. I will show you. So I want to debug it in pseudocode view because it will be faster. F8, 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 switch cases, okay, switch cases, it should be switch case, you can see that switch case is A2, and A2 is 2, so switch case could be the 2 value. Basically this one, what it's doing, I have annotated here, it's obtaining the special folder path, and in this case it will be document path, my documents. Continue, and continue and check the conditions here. We have to basically, again, as I already said, we have to get to this function, and you can see here that it should be true. This should be okay, v6, it should be true, and here is a condition which will not be true, and we can basically step in a disassembly view easily. F8, F8, and test, and jump 0, and you can see that it's not true, and we will be basically jumping to something in a different location, basically almost in the end of this function. So that's what we have to modify it. So basically go to the registers and switch the 0 flag. Right click and 0 value. Nice. And you can see we are jumping here, and that's what we want, because we want to reach this destination. You can F8, 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 step over, step over, step over, step over. F8 is true, and it's pointing to some location. Nice. F8, and here you can see we have to step into this function. F7, and check the arguments on the stack. What we got on the stack here is quite nicely. Okay, the referencing stack. It should be somewhere, or maybe this is somewhere wrong. F7, F7, F7. The stack is quite strange here. Okay, but it doesn't matter. We can continue. And check now what is in the file path and what is. I can refresh this referencing stack. Okay, check what is in the file path and folder path. Folder path and file path. It's so strange, and this is basically what I wanted to show you, that the LokiBot malware sample is using the methods of COM in quite a strange and quite a tricky way. Basically, what is here is that the malware is creating an instance of ComObject, and it will be invoked the method namespace, which basically return a folder object. So the argument to this function is folder path, and the folder path is in this case pointing to some zip file, the location where is the zip file. So how is this possible that you can specify a zip file as a folder path? Because according to the Microsoft, check what is how Microsoft is defining this function namespace. We can check it here. Shell dispatch and namespace, and basically it should process argument as a vdir as a parameter. Vdir is the folder for which to create the folder object. This can be a string that specifies the path of the folder or one of the shell special folder constants value. Okay, so it should be folder path, and now you can see that it's pointing to a zip file. Okay, and what we got next? We can, okay, let's continue. Yep, and here, what we got next? You can see here the copy here method is using what? It's using value v9 variable value, and what is in value? In value v9 is file path. Okay, so basically it's using as a it's not using a file as a file path, but a directory with all contents. So how does it all work? Basically, the malware LokiBot is using the ComObject method namespace here to specify the location as a zip file, and to this zip file it will copy the contents of the folder. We can check the Microsoft documentation. What does it say about method copy here? And in according to Microsoft documentation, it's absolutely correct, because in copy here method we can not specify only file as a file path, but also the folder. You can see it's a type of v-item, and as a parameter by v-item, and is the item or items to copy. This can be a string that represents file name. Okay, it's understandable, but also a folder item object and folder items object. So basically this is correct. This should be a folder with all contents. So in this case, it's a folder, one password. Basically, LokiBot is password stealer, so it does make sense. But this content of folder will be copied to this path of zip file to zip file. And when I first saw it, I basically just checked my naming of variables if I didn't do something wrongly, but I have to name it correctly, and basically it's doing it quite in a strange and tricky way. So we can also re-implement this functionality and try it with our COM client in PowerShell with .NET notation. And I want to show you that I'm not lying to you. So basically, we can copy whatever content to destination of some zip file, and it will be packed to zip file. And how is this possible? And it's because the zip file is treated as an archive of folder destination. Yep, so basically compressed folder destination, and that's why it is possible. So let's jump to the PowerShell. And first of all, we need, before we jump to the PowerShell, we need the class ID. Again, class ID is this one. Copy this class ID, jump to COM view, cancel, close, jump to class ID, and just find the class ID free, and here it is, shell automation service. It's okay, so do right click and view, copy global unique identifier to clipboard. Yes, and here we already did something like that. Here, object instance, and here we just basically specify the class ID of the COM object, which is called shell automation service. Just again delete the bracelets like this. Okay, we have object instance, object instance, and now the method namespace, and the namespace should be pointing to some zip file. I already created here testing zip file. It's here, I think. Yep, here, and you can see it's empty. Yeah, it's basically only empty zip file, which is basically treated as a compressed folder destination. Nice. Okay, shift and right click and copy this path, and go to PowerShell and copy the file path, copy the path to folder zip, and save it to object folder object, and now folder object, check the get member, and you can see that this folder object has methods copy here and other methods, but we want to use the copy here. So for object, copy here, and something what we want to copy to the folder destination of zip file. And what we want to copy there, we can basically do the same as the malware did. We want to copy this test folder containing one file which has only hello world inside. Okay, so copy this location, and here xxx, and go to PowerShell and copy it here. Nice, and press enter, and that's all. Just check that I wasn't lying, that here is the zip file, but if you now check it, it contains the test folder, and inside is test xxx.txt and with the text what was before. Nice. So basically we re-implement a COM client in a .NET notation in PowerShell, the same functionality what has the malware family LokiBot. So that was quite nice. What I wanted to show you that basically this malware is some kind using ComObject method in quite a tricky way, that basically file path is directing to a folder path, and folder path is directing to a zip file. So it's quite nice and tricky way, and I was quite surprised that zip file is treated as a archive folder path. So it's not quite nice to know it. And that's probably all what I wanted to cover. You can see it here. Interesting way of COM. Okay, and yep, that's all. I hope you enjoyed this video. Also, if you have any question, or if you have any recommendation, if you have any suggestions, or maybe you are familiar with other quite a tricky way of using COM methods, just let me know. You can message me on Twitter, or you can leave a comment on the YouTube video, below the YouTube video. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.